Hey guys, Sirak here. Today we'll be doing an overview of one of my Lord of the Ring maps, the Battle for Middle-earth. More specifically, the Elves overview. In my previous video, you can learn about the major guidelines of the map and the Mordor overview. In this video, I'll be focusing on Player 2, the Elves. In the beginning, your town center starts in the far west. Your town center's name is called the Grey Havens. To the northeast, you will find Rivendell, which houses most of the good heroes, as well as the Fellowship. Your heroes include Elrond, Arwen, Legolas, and Glorfindel. And it also houses the monastery, where if you get the ring, you'll get the eagles. Now to the southwest, you will find Lothlorien with Galadriel and Haldir. And to the northwest of that again, you will find Mirkwood, where you have King Thranduil, Toriel, and your only siege workshop. Mirkwood becomes available at minute 14, as it is blocked here, and you spawn 2 villagers. You have to be very careful with those villagers, and it's the only 2 that you get on this side of the map, and it's quite the long walk to get over here. So keep them as safe as possible until you're able to build a town center, which ideally you'll want to build inside the walls of Mirkwood. One of the strategies for the goblins is to kill those villagers very quickly to have much less resistance in Mirkwood, so you have to be very... Rivendell opens at minute 18. As you can see, it's blocked here. And you get a villager that goes directly on the rice farms here at the bottom of Rivendell. One area I did not mention is Edhellon. So the one area right here. Edhellon is a coastal city on the coast of Gondor, and it has 2 docks, as well as it houses quite a bit of resources player. Now Edhellon is denoted by the tower in the middle of the Shallows, so this one right here. And what's really important is that it gives you 2 extra docks as well, so that you have more potential for the fish boom at the beginning of the game. So as you can see, the elves are very spread out, which makes them very flexible on where to attack in the map, but also very vulnerable to different areas. Thankfully, you shouldn't have to worry about an attack on Rivendell, unless Fornost is lost, and thankfully Lothlorien and Mirkwood are very fortified. So the starting heroes that are available at the start are Galadriel and Haldir, which are here. And all heroes are important in their own way. Galadriel, if dead, gives Mordor a boost to their units and removes the trees surrounding the castle. So these trees right here, they're not able to be killed by onagers, which means that it makes the castle very fortified. But if Galadriel dies, the trees are automatically removed, making Lothlorien even an easier target. If Haldir dies, he'll give a buff to Isengard, and he is also required for the Helm's Deep Elves quest that I'll go over in a little bit. Now Toriel, if she dies, will stop the spawn of Mirkwood archers in Mirkwood. And King Thranduil, if he dies, he'll start the Drake spawn for the goblins. Now, Elrond is as important in the defense of Rivendell as Galadriel is for the defense of Lothlorien. So, as long as Elrond and Arwen are in Rivendell, the Shallows right here will cause massive damage to any enemy team that if Elrond is defeated, he also won't be able to complete the Army of the Dead quest, as well as weakens Aragorn and Arwen. If Arwen is defeated, she buffs the Nazguls quite considerably and weakens Aragorn. Glorfindel buffs Mordor, so it's one of the conditions that they need to get their continual HP buffs. While Legolas is needed for the Fellowship quests. If Legolas is defeated, he'll also weaken Aragorn and Gimli and Thranduil. For the quest, the Elves player will have to research redemption and faith at the monastery, allow the Lothlorien archers to be spawned in Lothlorien. If they attain 100 kills and Toriel is alive and in Mirkwood, she'll start spawning Mirkwood archers, which are very strong archers. The last spawn, you will require the cooperation of the Gondor player as well, as Gandalf is also required. So Gandalf here, as well as Elrond and Galadriel must meet in the Lothlorien, and then the Elves player will spawn Wind Riders, the Elves' strongest units. So the Helm's Deep quest, right here, will require quite a few more players and heroes to meet in Helm's Deep, so by the castle here named the Hornburg. So the Rohan player will require Theoden and Gamling. The Gondor player will require Aragorn. You require Legolas and Haldir. And the Dwarves player requires Gimli. You will then receive a notification that some elite elf archers will spawn. And this is a one-time spawn, so that once those units are dead, you will not be getting any more. They are, however, buffed by any of the quests that you do complete, especially the continual HP buff quest that you can get later. Lastly, you can renew the friendship with the dwarves and get some incredibly strong units for the both of you. If you place 20 samurai inside the city of Dale, which is right here, at the same time that the dwarves player berserk, they'll both spawn very and the quest will be complete. If you bring Glorfindel to the ruins of Carn Dûm, which is located right here, so once the castle and the winter go down, you bring Glorfindel there, and he gets a huge buff. If you build an outpost on the island of Tolfalas, which is right here, you'll need a transport to get here, you will actually convert the fortress on the hill. It should be noted that if the outpost dies, the fortress will go back to being neutral. You do have to be careful because the Gondor player as well as the Umbar player, which is orange, can also build the outpost and claim Tolfalas as their own. So one last thing I'd like to mention is that the Elves Siege Workshop is in Mirkwood, and it's the only one that they get. So you have to make sure that you defend it as much as you can, since that Siege Workshop makes it a bigger threat for evil in the Forest of Mirkwood. If the Grey Havens fall, so if your starting town center dies, you'll automatically give thousands of gold to your enemies. If you lose Edhelon, which is the tower right here, you'll give a good amount of resources to the evil men. If you lose Rivendell, you'll give their goblins one of their HP buffs, which means that they'll get stronger over time. Losing Lothlorien also gives Mordor one of their HP buffs, so again, they'll get stronger over time if you lose that. Mirkwood doesn't actually do much, except that you'll probably have lost your Siege Workshop along the way, and again, that's a very big deal for your presence in the Forest of Mirkwood. So now that all the grim stuff is out for the Elves, we're going to need to focus on what you need to gain for your own buffs. So for the Elves, what you want to do is you can look here, look at player 2, to figure out what the buffs are. Buffs for the Elves are very hard to get because the units that they're buffing are quite strong. And you can easily end the game with some of your buffed units. So the first one to do is to kill the Witch King. The second one to kill is Khamûl. And it gets even better for the third, where you have to kill the other 7 Nazguls. So basically, if you or your team can kill all 9 of the Nazguls, you'll get 3 HP buffs that will be repeated until the game ends. That's really big if you're able to catch them off guard. The last one is probably the most realistic one, and that's to kill the Fortress of Carn Dûm. So again, we've mentioned this before, but you want to kill the fortress right here. And not only does that provide you with your own HP buffs, it also removes the rocks here and here so that you have a back doorway into the goblin's base. Now, the best part about taking Karndum is, although it is very fortified and not easily taken, you don't actually have to worry about any siege going their way unless Fornos has been taken, because the siege workshops are quite far away in any direction. So lastly, I'll go over the fellowship quest, but with Legolas, you can basically have him on follow with Aragorn. So the first thing that you want to do is get the fellowship to meet Galadriel in Lothlorien. So what you'll want is Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Boromir, Frodo, Sam, Merry, Pippin, and Galadriel to be able to go right here in Lothlorien. And so when you get the prompt, which is exactly 1 hour after Strider reveals himself to be Aragorn, you can bring Elrond and Legolas along with Aragorn and Gimli to Dunharrow, which is right here, and that will open the paths to the Army of the Dead, so that the Gondor player can get some very, very strong units. So that's about it for the quests. Now, for the Elves player to die, the enemy team will have to kill the Grey Havens town center, as well as the 3 castles in Rivendell, Lothlorien, and Mirkwood. As you can see, it takes quite a bit to kill the Elves player. Not to say that it cannot be done. Now, the main strategy with the Elves is to have a very strong start by abusing the Japanese fish boom. So for those who don't know, the Japanese fishing ship have a better work rate than any other fishing ships, which means that you can gather a large amount of food very quickly, especially with your 3 docks. You can research the archer technologies as quickly as you can to make sure that when you do have the archer spawns, that they become as strong. Arrow slits Yasama, which will also increase the damage on your towers and will make them incredibly deadly and able to take out onagers very quickly. Samurais are also quite deadly for any of the spawns and unique units that will be in the map that you'll be facing up against, as their attack bonus bypasses armor. So no matter how strong the unit is, you can still bypass and do a lot of damage to their units by using the samurai. And what you want to do is you want to definitely use your flexibility in different areas, but your main focus will probably be in the First of Mirkwood against the goblins and Dol Guldur to keep your archer spawns and siege workshop safe. So I think that's it for the elves, and I will see you next time with the goblins overview.